I really would have started off the show this way. I love Jaylen Lane, man. I love him.
NFL draft is in the books, but when we can get really smart people on to continue to talk about it, get new perspectives, then we're going to do that. And there are a few better in the NFL draft space than Todd McShay. Of course, years at ESPN now with The Ringer, doing a great podcast there. Actually, I was listening to the show this morning. I want to ask him about why he did the episode that he did in his most recent episode as well. But we're going to talk mostly about the Commanders draft with Todd. Now, Todd, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it. Welcome to the show.
Good to be on with you, man. So someone still wants to talk to me. That's a good thing.
Yeah, still want to talk to you. Look, man, we're doing a sports radio show. This time of year, it's like, oh man, the draft's over. What do we talk about? Especially, we don't. The Wizards are hopefully going to make the playoffs eventually. We don't have NBA playoffs to talk about. We're not a show that does a ton of hockey. So if we can stretch the football content, you know how that goes. And if not, Todd, now that you're doing the show year round, you're going to learn.
I am learning on the fly, I promise.
Yeah, for sure. So again, Todd's show now going year round. He was joking on the show today. Typically got to go into hibernation until at least August, but nope, he's year round now. And I just want to start, Todd. You mentioned on one of your shows recently, post draft, that you don't think people are talking enough about what the Commanders did. What about what Adam Peters and his team did here in DC? Did you like so much that you don't know that they're getting enough credit for just how smart it was?
I just thought. I mean, the first, 4 picks, I guess it was, in my opinion, they were kind of ahead of the curve and got players, or the first 3, I should say, got players that absolutely, I expected to come off the board earlier than they did. Josh Conerly at 29, I guess it wasn't that much later than what I expected, but it also was an offensive tackle run that happened fast, and when the shelf fell off, there was just nothing left, you know. I mean, we can get into all of them, but Conerly specifically, and I'm guessing people were like, well, we just brought in Laramie Tunsil, and we're drafting a left tackle, and he played left tackle at Oregon the last couple of years, but Conerly's 21 years old, man. Like, he's just a pup. And a lot of people in the league think, and I tend to agree, like, this is a player who, with continued, strength development, his core strength, and continuing a little bit with the hand usage, he can develop into a really good starting left tackle. But right now, he might be a really good starting guard in the NFL. And you say, well, is that what we really wanted to spend in the first round pick? And my answer is, look at where some of the guards went. We had a guard taken at 12 in Tyler Booker. We had another one in Zabel. We had Donovan Jackson all going in the first round. And again, Laramie Tunsil is a great player. Laramie Tunsil turns 31 years old in August, and he's on his 3rd team. And so it is a tremendous signing, and it may be a tremendous signing and acquisition and, an asset for this team, especially with a young star quarterback. There's nothing more important than protecting him. But maybe it's only for a couple of years, and maybe you're developing Josh Conerly. And also, don't forget, Sam Cosme's coming off of the surgery.
Right.
And, it's pointing towards he'll be ready, but until you know, you don't know. And so if the best asset in this organization is Jaden Daniels, you better be prepared to protect him, and you better have backup plans. And so if you draft maybe a starting guard or a guy who can play multiple positions along your line at 21 years old and can develop him, the fastest 10-yard split of any offensive lineman this past year, you watch him, ultra quick feet, fits that system perfectly with the zone blocking. I think if you have to just watch one tape, go watch Penn State. He's the only guy that really gave Abdul Carter fits and kind of pissed him off, to be honest. He got frustrated as the game went on. So there's just a lot to like there in terms of the development. And we can get into the rest of the picks, but I like the foresight and the flexibility for this year, but also maybe you're getting your starting left tackle for 3 years down the road, and you did it late in the first round. It's an organization that didn't have a ton of foresight for a long, long time. And now they're acting the part, and I just appreciated that. I was curious to see, they even drafted this late. They haven't been a playoff team. How do they handle this? And I think Adam Peters, right out of the gate, is making personnel decisions that are a step ahead that we're used to seeing from like the Ravens when they had Ozzie and Eric DeCosta. We're used to seeing from Howie Roseman and Brett Veach with the Chiefs, Roseman with the Eagles, obviously. Like I appreciate what they're doing as an organization now.
So we will get into the other picks, but let's stick with Conerly for a second, because I think the thought here, Todd, is that he's probably going to play right tackle with Brandon Coleman kicking inside. But Dan Quinn was very clear, like, these guys are going to compete. That's how they do business here. And so if Coleman winds up being the better tackle and Conerly winds up being the better guard, they could certainly go that route until Tunsil's time is done at left tackle, and then one of them presumably kicks back out there. But when you think of other guys that have started, like Tristan Wirfs is obviously the ultimate example, and I don't think anyone thinks Conerly's can become Wirfs, because why would you? Because Wirfs might be the best tackle in the whole league, and projecting that is bold. But when you think about guys that either start at tackle, right tackle, and then kick to left, or play guard and then kick back outside of tackle, how does that typically work from a development standpoint, and how viable is that development plan?
I think it's very viable when you have his tools, his athleticism, his movement skills, and again, you're only 21 years old. That's what they're betting on here, and it's a really good bet, because like, I'll be interested to see with the right tackle, if that's how they wind up going. Like, he didn't look great as a right tackle at the Senior Bowl at times, but he also, like, he was a full-time starting left tackle, 3 years, 2-year starter at Oregon at the left tackle position, and so, like, people always say, well, you can just kick outside to right if you played left. That can be a harder transition, just with the steps and kind of mirroring in reverse order what you're doing. But again, when you're that young and you have that athleticism, these are things that I really think that he's capable of doing. And that's what they see in him, is that versatility, whether it's at right tackle, at guard early, and maybe eventually at left tackle. It's a plan, and it gives, you know what it does more than anything? It gives you flexibility. It like, if he does work out at right tackle, Coleman kicks inside the guard, you hope DeCosme comes back and is 100%. Like, you just can't enter the season with any quarterback, but especially when it's your star quarterback that is carrying this team. You have to make sure that you have that solidified, and I think that the organization, like, that was a major step towards solidifying that offensive line for a while.
Todd McShay, NFL draft analyst for The Ringer, with us here on the Hoffman Show. Of course, Craig Hoffman with you here on the Team at 980. There's some new reporting today about Trey Amos, Todd, that apparently there was like a back injury that some teams discovered late in the process that might have caused him to drop. Adam Peters seemed like genuinely stunned he was there for him at 61. Where were you on Amos? Where did you have him? And, how nervous if you get told late in the process, like, oh, he's got something with his back. How far would that have dropped him potentially on your board?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that part comes down to the medical team and what does that entail? Is that it's going to be something that is hindering him? Is that something that, like, we're worried about the long term? And obviously, the organization, when it comes to medical and it comes to the character can be different. When it's the medical, you have the scouting combine, and you have the combine rechecks. Each team has their own doctors, and there's very few things that get past NFL teams from a medical standpoint. What is the difference from organization to organization is what they deem acceptable, right? And so for one team, it could be take him off the board. I'm not saying Amos specifically. I'm saying in general. Right. A certain injury could be take him off the board. Another one could be, well, we value the first and second round picks as, we have to hit on starters, and if this is a concern for the first, so there's different medical standards for each team. What I can tell you is that there was some back information that came out, and I don't know how late you want to call it, but I also know that most evaluators had him late first, early second. And this is a guy who played 34 games at Louisiana Lafayette, transferred to Alabama, and I give him a lot of credit, man. It's kind of like, it didn't work out here, moving on, and then came to Ole Miss in 13 starts and played his best ball. He's got the height, almost 6'1", well packed together, longer arms. and he's just like cover three, quarters, press man. He can do it all. And I think his eyes in zone and man coverage, I really think he's got the chance to continue to get better with more game experience. And he had 3 interceptions last year, but I think he's one of those guys that can take the football away. And now you kind of shift your focus now that you have this offense that you have with the quarterback that you have. And it becomes about being like fierce, aggressive, getting the ball, taking it away, finding ways to get the ball in Jaden's hands more. And I think Amos fits that plan.
And we know that's how Dan Quinn wants to play, aggressive, violent.
Exactly.
He fits the culture. He fits their prototype. When you think about the cornerback position specifically, Todd, as someone who's done this for as long as you have, scouting corners, like corner is the most volatile position probably in the entire league. I mean, forget trying to project college guys. You have guys that have been all pros that 2 years later are out of the league because they change systems, they change schemes, and the cliff is so steep at the end.
Yes.
What are some of the things that you really prioritize at corner that you found, okay, I can rely upon this, and then maybe another trait that you typically go, all right, that part is a projection. There's nothing I can do about that.
It is. You're absolutely right. It's not a tricky position necessarily to evaluate like the talent level. It's so much contingent on them landing in the right place in the right scheme. Generally speaking, like teams don't draft a square to put it in a circle hole. They know what they're looking for, but that doesn't mean that scheme's going to be the same in a year or two, right? And I've even seen this year there's some defensive coordinators that are moving over that are like zone heavy, don't play a lot of cover three, but play cover two, whatever it is. And now all of a sudden you get all this personnel, and so guys are moving around. That's the hard part that can't be necessarily predicted, although you trust that NFL teams are going to draft them. Here's the thing. There are 3 things that are really important with cornerbacks. One to me is probably no position has a combination of 2 measurables that are more important than arm length and 40 time for a corner, especially most importantly for man-to-man cover corners, okay? The second part is the ball skills. What is their – and it's not necessarily even the interceptions, like do they have great hands or they play corner because they're not a receiver. It's more how comfortable are they when the ball's in the air. You really want to study a guy and figure out the projection. How does he look in that final split second when the ball's in the air, his back's turned to the quarterback, and is he making a lot of contact? Are there pass interferences? Is he getting lost? You can be in perfect phase and have unbelievable coverage, but if you go to turn your head around and you get lost frequently, that's something that typically doesn't change. It's kind of like an instinct and a feel. And then the third thing to me, and I think it gets overlooked a lot, especially with guys that are playing off coverage, zone, football intelligence. Richard Sherman had terrible, 40 time and all those. Richard Sherman was brilliant, and he just would diagnose things faster. And it's not just about reading the quarterback's eyes, which everyone thinks, and absolutely is an important part. It's also about studying and the tendencies. And if he's going to stem this route this way, then I need to protect myself because he likes to double move up. It's putting in the work combined with a level of football intelligence, and that's what I see. And those guys can typically play a little bit of multiple scheme and do different things. Like Charvarius Ward, for example, for San Francisco, one of the reasons why he was so successful when he was in San Francisco and he moved in the offseason is that he could do multiple things because he's got such good football intelligence. And so it's kind of a combination of all those things. I know I went on a rant, but excuse me, the thing that I like about Amos is, and I started it off by saying he can play cover three, play quarters. He can play press man. So I think that they like the fact that his football intelligence and the way he tracked this past year shows a player that's ascending in that regard.
Todd McShay, NFL draft analyst for The Ringer, with us for a few more minutes here on the Hoffman Show. You said you liked their first three first-round picks. And actually, you guys mentioned on your show that I listened to this morning, your most recent podcast episode, about Jaylen Lane. Why are you so high on Lane, and why were you, along with Adam Peters, surprised that he was available for them at pick 128 towards the end of the fourth round?
Yeah, I really would have started off the show this way instead of Conerly. I should have.
Yeah.
I love Jaylen Lane, man. I love him. I know he's 5'9 3/4", but he's well built at 191. He's got longer arms. He ran a 4.34. Listen to this. You ready? You probably heard it at this point. You probably heard everything about it. But no wide receiver in the past decade at the Combine has posted a better trio of results in the 40, which he ran a 4.34, the broad jump, 11 foot, and the three-cone. And
wow.
So you're talking the top-end speed. The broad jump is the lower body explosiveness, and then the three-cone is like the change of direction, body control, stop, start, all, and then you watch him on tape. And here's the thing, like Jaylen Lane he began his career at Middle Tennessee State, and then obviously wound up at Virginia Tech in 2023. He was the best receiver. His numbers just sucked because they didn't have a quarterback throwing the ball. He combined for 79 catches, just over 1,000 yards. But when you look at what he had to do in order to get that production, it was like bubble screens, quick game, reverses, like the return game. He's outstanding. He was 26th nationally in combined kick return yards going back to 2021, and ranked second nationally in punt return average with 15.5 back at MTSU. So this guy does a little bit of everything. He's really good with the ball in his hands. Like, that's where he's excellent. I think he might be the most underrated wide receiver from this entire class. And then I think about him in Cliff's system and what they like to do. And like, wouldn't it be nice to get the ball out and get it to a guy that can create something on one of these quick hitters, And they've got Terry and they've got Debo, but now they've got one of those like guys, And as a route runner, he's not refined yet. But I watched him, like, if you do these clip reels that we have on the tape with we combine with like catapult video with the PFF Ultimate, and you can do it by clips of like routes 11 to 20 yards and different, to show the intermediate. When he actually did it, he's like, there's some Tank Dell type stuff in there, like the footwork and the quickness. So I just, and then talking to scouts that I really trust, the leadership, football character, all the things, like he just fits. He's going to fit really well in that room with Terry. And I don't know. They got a lot better with that player in a multitude of different ways. And I'm certain that they're just thrilled thinking about what they can wind up doing with him in Cliff's offense. I'm sure Cliff is just like, in the room designing different ways to get him involved with Debo and his versatility and like it's going to be a lot of fun to watch this year, man.
No, I know he's the number one punt returner on their board, not to mention what he brings offensively, hopefully in supplement to Debo, or if Debo doesn't wind up working out, replacing Debo kind of long term. So that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. An easy button for Jaden over the next, hopefully, 5-10 years here in D.C. Todd McShay is with us. Last question for Todd on the way out here. So Todd, I do a podcast with Logan Paulson, who played 10 years in the league as well. And Logan actually, unknowing that you were coming on the show today, sent me your most recent episode this morning and was like, I really like this premise. And for those that haven't had a chance to listen to it, Todd and his crew went back and looked at the draft and was like, basically, what can we learn? What did we get wrong? As opposed to the typical, like, oh, this guy got overdrafted, underdrafted because it was different than my board. You guys looked at it as like, why did we get it wrong based off of what we thought versus maybe what the league is telling us? Why did you want to embark on that? And what were maybe the one or two biggest things, macro, as opposed to the individual lessons that you talk about on the pod, that you learned from doing that exercise?
I wanted to do it because I've always been shown the door, like on Monday after the draft. Okay, that's the front door. The highway's up there. You take 84 to 90. You'll be home in 2 hours. We'll see you in August. So, and I just feel like this is the time of year that I've never been able to go back and actually evaluate. And like today we have another show that's coming out in just an hour or so, and it's about offensive skill position players that were drafted in the AFC, and we'll do the NFC on Monday. So I've never been able to do these types of shows before because no one really wanted to talk about it. And I wanted to start our off season with, all right. And Gary Horton got me into the business. He worked with Belichick and Saban and all those guys in the Browns, and he bounced around the league and was with like Frank Kush and Mike White in college. And he started this 33rd scouting department, if you will, and we worked with NFL teams for a couple of years and realized we needed to make a salary, and we wound up with Sporting News and then ESPN. But one of his early lessons to me was, like, you can have your opinion, and you need to be strong in your opinion and believe what you say. But I also want to remind you, there's a lot of really smart people and a lot of really, money-rich organizations that are investing a lot of money into this. So, like, the premise needs to always be, and I think what we need to help represent sometimes, is they didn't just wake up in the morning and try to screw it up, right? And so, like, I always hear after, like, well, they did a terrible job based off of my rankings and my rank. Okay, but, like, maybe they, first of all, maybe they just got it right, and they've got 13 people in their scouting department, and they have all sorts of resources. Maybe it's just better than my eye on this specific player, or had more information. But maybe for them, player 23, on my board deserved to be picked 9 because he just fits what they want to do, and it's not reaching for need. It's actually they know their system. So we went through the entire draft and just picked out. Steve mentioned, I'm my co-host who I've worked with for 25 years. We picked out guys. Like, I wasn't as high on Tetero and McMillan, but you look at the situation he's in, and you need to have a smaller quarterback, and now he's got bigger targets in Carolina. And so we went through and tried to figure out, all right, here are the spots that we were way off our rankings versus where they were drafted. Let's do an honest assessment, stick to our evaluation, but let's show, okay, maybe this will work. And if it does work, what are the lessons that we can learn?
I love it. And there's a really good chance that that's going to be the premise of our Take Command show tomorrow, because Logan likes the exercise. And who am I to argue with a 6'5", 275-pound man, Todd? That's certainly not going to be me.
I would not do that, and I appreciate him watching, and tell him I said hello.
I will. Todd McShay, you can listen to The McShay Show on Spotify and wherever you get your podcast. You can also get The McShay Report, the newsletter on the NFL Draft from The Ringer. Todd, this was great. Hopefully, now that you're not hibernating from now till August, we find another thing that you want to talk about Commanders related. You're welcome back anytime.
It sounds good, man. Good luck to you. I'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Todd McShay, everybody.
Hey, this is DA, and you're listening to The Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and the Odyssey app.